What do you do when the entire identity that you have built is completely erased? How do you move forward and get clarity and build a new brand? Well, today we're going to find out because the woman that we're speaking to has gone from being a six-figure sales coach to having that completely erased. And now she is a visibility coach and the founding team member of Brand Builders Group. Welcome to Beyond the Lens podcast, Stories That Unite Us, and my interview with Elyse Archer. Well, hello, Elyse. How are you?
I am doing great, Marlana. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
You know, when I was originally talking and thinking to myself about the structure of this and the framework, a word came to mind and it was transformation. And I realized the more I thought about it that word is actually not the right one. And I say that because I look at transformation as something that happens to us. And you have been so purposeful in the steps you have taken and the things that you've done that I actually think a better word for you is reinvention. So under that umbrella, take us back to where you were a handful of years ago.
Yeah, sure. Well, I love the way you put it because it really is to me an interesting difference between the two. And I think there's probably been some peppering of both transformation and reinvention in my journey. But yeah, I mean, this time even, 15 months ago, I was in a very different place in my business and in my life. I was a partner in an international 8-figure sales consulting organization. I had built a large business. I was leading a team of coaches that I absolutely adored. I had a worldwide group of clients. I was traveling, around the country, speaking, training, coaching. Everything in my identity was wrapped up around what I was doing. And I felt like I was living out my purpose. I felt great about what I was doing. I felt fulfilled. I was really helping people, and that felt really good as well. I also had been very intentional about building a personal brand as a sales coach. So for about the 4 years I'd been doing it, I'd been creating content, podcasts, videos related to sales. And those things were really a lot of the things that I attribute to how quickly my business grew and how successful I was. And then even for the previous year leading up until that point, every single day I've been doing a daily sales tip video. I was ranking online, next to Grant Cardone. If you looked for a sales coach, it was like, and it's like love him or hate him. Either way, I was shocked that was happening, but it was happening. And there was a very big unexpected change that happened in May of last year when we had basically some massive changes within the organization. The leadership that I had been working with directly both left the company, and I had just hired a new team member who left a job where she was making $300,000 a year, supporting her family, to come work with me, commission only, believed so much in the mission, what I was doing, that she was going to come over here and work with us.
That's a lot of trust.
It was a lot of trust. Yeah, it was leading a team of 5. And I had no idea what to do, because all of a sudden everything that I knew about my future, the people I was going to be working with, the company, like everything was suddenly like that in an instant changed. Mm-hmm. And I was left feeling totally uncertain of what I was going to do. I felt a lot of loyalty to my customers. I felt a lot of loyalty to my team, people who had such trust in me and the vision I had painted for them of what was possible, that I felt like it was my duty to try to make it work. And for about a month, I tried to continue to lead, continue to keep moving forward in my business, was under so much stress about it that I broke out in hives all over my body. And at a certain point, I realized I wasn't as invested in the success of my team members. Like, I just really didn't care. I didn't feel the same level of caring as I had. And I knew that I was someone who was deeply concerned about my team members. I mean, I had team members where they were struggling financially for a while. I was like, I would pay them money out of pocket because I wanted them to be okay. I wanted their families to be okay. I cared deeply about my team, but I hit a point where I realized I'm no longer invested in their success the way I know I need to be. So I need to leave. And so I made the choice to exit that company, not knowing what was going to happen, but just knowing that I was no longer supposed to be there. And that was very hard because in the process, I let a lot of people down and my reputation was tarnished in that process as well. And it was really hard because part of the process of exiting was that I basically had to go from being very visible in the sales coaching space to suddenly feeling totally invisible, both online and offline. Couldn't communicate with team, customers, had to basically, and it was just part of my agreement with them. I had to remove any content I'd created about my brand over the past 4 years, like within the realm of the sales coaching world. And so I was suddenly left feeling invisible, like I didn't know what my purpose was, like I had no meaning. And
so you basically went to being a non-entity.
Yeah, exactly. It's like totally just like a ghost, like poof, gone. That was hard for me. That was really, really hard for me. And there was a couple of months there. Well, I'll say this. It was hard. And then there were elements of, oh my gosh, I get to sleep in until 10 and then go for a walk in the woods and try to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Okay, I'm okay. There were parts of it that I liked. But the beautiful thing about the experience was I got the chance to be very intentional about reinventing myself. Mm-hmm. And it was this moment of, okay, like this has happened. I'm clearly not going to do what I used to do. I get to now choose and pick what I'm going to be known for, how I'm going to make money, what my brand is going to be. And that was both exciting and also intimidating because I was feeling called to have a bigger conversation with people. Mm-hmm. Right around that same time when all of that was happening, my friend and former podcast co-host Greg Heyer, who you may have known, he passed away in his sleep at age 39. And it was this like, wow, I was 32 at the time. If I only had 7 years left to live, what would I want my life to be about? And what would I want to be known for? And so I started really wanting to have a bigger conversation about impact and about how we can show up in a way that fully honors who we are, that aligns with who we are, that's in line with our purpose. And there was an element of that where I felt unqualified, where I felt like, who am I to be having this bigger conversation? Who am I to build a brand in a bigger way? Sales felt very safe to me. Mm-hmm. But I kind of thought, you know what, like all of this would not have happened if I wasn't meant to be having this bigger conversation, if I wasn't meant to be stepping up in a bigger way. And so a number of things happened along the way. I rejoined forces with the former leadership of our old company, who had also exited. There's a number of us who exited around the same time, and we came together and formed this company, Brand Builders Group. And I mean, it's only been a little over a year, but it's been an incredible process of not only reinventing our own personal brands, but also helping other people do the same thing. We're a personal branding strategy firm. We work with everyone from individuals who are working full-time in corporate and they've got the side hustle, or they've got the vision for the side hustle and they need the steps to the strategy to really help them make it happen, all the way to, arguably some of the biggest personal brands in the world who want to go to the next level. But one of the things that I've seen all along the way is that regardless of the level of success of the person, I can relate so much to some of the questions people ask, which are, who am I to be on this bigger stage? Who am I to step up and launch this podcast or launch this show or be visible on video? And it's just been a very meta experience almost of going through it myself and rebuilding and trying to kind of lead the way, showing what's possible when we stop worrying about our insecurities and start just really showing up and giving more of ourselves. And then also helping my clients do the same.
So let me ask you, because you did make reference to the fact that you had built this brand before. Did you realize the power behind that then, or have you gotten to come to realize the power as you have built this new brand?
Yeah, I definitely realized the power of it then. And part of it was accidental. So my story has been one where I haven't always known exactly what the right steps were to take, but I just knew I needed to be known in order to be successful in my space. And so I kind of just did everything I knew how to do. So yeah, when I left corporate in 2015 to go into sales coaching, and I didn't really know much about the sales coaching world, but I had a marketing background. I'd spent a lot of time doing digital marketing for small businesses. So all I knew was, if you want to be successful in an industry, it's really important that you're known, and that when people hop on Google and they look for what you do, that you're found, and that people trust you, and that you've got a strong reputation. So I've been very intentional about doing that in my sales coaching business. And that's part of how I was able to build it so quickly and get clients and people. It was funny because we were teaching people how to cold call, how to answer objections. It was like, I could do that. And I taught other people how to do it, but it was like, there's also this much easier way to do it over here. And so look, there's multiple ways you can be successful in the world. But for me, I had experienced a lot of success generating inbound leads and opportunities just by being visible in my space. And so it's fun now just to be free to really teach other people how to do that too.
My other question too is that you had said that your brand and reputation took a hit before. So when something like that happens, how do you reinvent and overcome that?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's something I had never anticipated happening. And so I wasn't really prepared for that. I think the most important thing you can do is be proactive. And when you think about reputation, a lot of times what you hear is reputation management, which is more what happens after there's a crisis.
Right.
But this is something we teach at Brand Builders Group, is this concept of reputation design. And it's really about when there's not a crisis, when things are going well, when everything is happening the way you'd like it to be, being super proactive and intentional about cultivating a strong reputation. Because sometimes things happen and it's like you don't expect it, or regardless of how good you are at your job, if you work with enough clients, at some point, someone's not going to be happy. Somebody's going to leave a negative review. Somebody's going to say something that, whether it's true or not, anybody can say anything today on any platform. And we have to be aware of that for most of us, unfortunately, it's not a matter of if, but when something like that happens. It can even be someone who just doesn't like you personally and has a vendetta out for you and buys, yourname.com and starts a hate site about you. Those things happen. And I see it with the clients who we come in and work with. It's like, it's happened to my clients who are really good, really heart-led people. And sometimes it just happens. So I think it's the best thing you can do is be intentional about proactively building your reputation. And then also just building relationships. This whole experience, we've been able to build a company that's been as successful as it has in such a short amount of time because of the relationships that we have. And so we've been able to kind of call on people who, we've built relationships with over the years, who know us, know who we are, and we're generous enough to, kind of share what we're doing with their network. And I think that's it. It's like, you have to be proactive and you have to really cultivate deep relationships and be generous with the people in your network, so that if you ever do need a favor, if you ever do need help, that's there for you.
And I think that too speaks to the power of having a personal brand and developing your reputation, because it's something that when you all left your former company, you brought with you. People have said things like, a brand is, you can't develop your own brand. It's what other people say about you. But I really believe that you can certainly steer the conversation.
Very much so. Very much so. And that's the difference in approaches. If you're totally passive about it, you're just going to get what other people say. And this is something where I think we can look at celebrities, athletes, high profile entrepreneurs, and learn so much from them, because they are so intentional about cultivating the reputation and the image that people have of them. And you have to, you have control over that. That's the great thing that I love about the power of personal branding is that so much of our success today as entrepreneurs, business owners, thought leaders is being known in your space as the go-to person. Now, here's the thing. It's not always the best people in the space who get known, right? Like, it's funny, we're doing this summit right now where we're interviewing different influential personal brands. And we had an interview, I think it was 2 days ago, with Brett Kissel, he's one of the top Canadian country music artists. He's also one of our clients. And what he said was, he was like, I'm not the best musician out there, but I've been very intentional about cultivating my brand, cultivating relationships. And that's part of how I've been successful. And that's also where I think it kind of speaks to what you do through photography, is when you look at the top personal brands in the world and top celebrities, they're so intentional about the images that people see of them, because it cultivates, every time someone sees an image of you, there's an impression that's made, even if it's subconscious. And so I think if we want to build a brand of a certain level of reputation and influence, everything matters. And we need to be really intentional about what sort of image are we putting out? What sort of message are we putting out? Just because that's, again, if you take what you get, you're going to take what you get. And it's usually not going to be great. It's not going to be what you would have chosen. So
right.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah. I also loved during the summit, I want to say it was John Acuff talked about the thumb test.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'll let you speak. Yeah.
And I thought that was fantastic too, because if we apply that even on a larger scale and not just to some paper content, and the thumb test, for anyone who hadn't seen his interview, he said, if you put your thumb over your logo, would someone be able to tell that the content was yours? Does it feel like it comes from you? And I think that that's true with anything that we put out, whether it be images or whether it be something, a brochure, any of that, because it all speaks to who we are and the message that we want people to receive from us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a level of intentionality, and really it's a service. And I think this is where people I hear a lot of times from clients I'm talking to, I don't want to be famous for the sake of being famous. Like, I don't care about being an influencer per se, or I don't care about having 1 million Instagram followers. And frankly, I don't care about that either. But what I do care about is impact. And what I do care about is knowing that the message that I feel called to share at this point in my life, I know there's tons of people who need to hear it. And the more visible I can be in sharing that message, the more lives I can change. And so I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in like the vanity of this. And there's an element of that. And certainly I think for anyone who's looking to step into a more influential role, figuring out how to deal with the ego piece of it is important, like that, because that can totally suck you in. It's so easy to get sucked into how many people are liking my photos, how many people are commenting, how many people are sharing. So you have to always come at it from a mindset of service, of who is the person on the other side of this image, of this video? How is this of service to them? And with that being said, being intentional about cultivating your brand, when you're doing it with that mindset, it is a service, because people need to know who you are, clearly and easily identify you, know what your message is, be able to connect with you in multiple places. So it's just, when it's an act of service, it's such a beautiful thing. And I think it really frees us up or whoever the person is who's building the brand, it frees you up to step into that bigger role of visibility and do it more confidently, because it's not just about you.
How do you think your life would be different if you didn't invest the time into building your personal brand?
I don't think I would have any of the opportunities I have right now. Actually, I know that for a fact. Right before I left corporate, before I even connected with our co-founders, Rory and AJ from the old company, I knew I wanted to go into sales coaching. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I needed to be known. So I started building a website. I started creating my social media profiles. And it's a long story, but basically I had found Rory and AJ through a podcast. And I knew they were in the sales coaching space too. And they became mentors to me through this podcast. And I reached out to them at one point because I was going to be in their city. And I was like, hey, I know you don't know me. It was a super creepy message on LinkedIn. I was like, I know you don't know me, but I'm building a sales coaching company. I know you guys have, you've got your company that you've built and it's huge. And if there's any chance you can meet with me while I'm in town, I would be so honored just to like pick your brain and learn from you. And I never send messages like that because I truly believe in trying to always give when I'm meeting with people. And it was really very much an ask. But sure enough, AJ wrote back and she said, yeah, like I'm in town. Happy to meet with you. And I found out later she never meets with people. She's never in town just due to travel schedule. But what I found out was she looked me up online and she was so impressed with what I had created. She thought I'd been doing sales coaching for years. Little did she know I built the website about 2 weeks before and I had one client. But she was willing to meet with me because of the brand I had created. And in that meeting, she gave me the opportunity to join them at the company. And that's the company I became a partner in and started working with them. And I'm working with them to this day. None of my life would be radically different if I had not been intentional about building a brand. No doubt about it.
How much too, because I know a lot of people also have fear of the imposter syndrome and that type of thing. And they, I think a lot feel that if they are more visible, then somehow they'll be found out that, it's just a facade. So how much is you have to have the cart before the horse, or is it one of those things that you build it and you grow into it?
Yeah. Well, I love that question because to me, it makes me think of something that we talk about, which is the reputation formula, which is essentially what goes into crafting a reputation. And it's really a combination of two different things. It's your results multiplied by your reach. So results times reach equals your reputation. And there's two different elements that are important. One is, what are your results? And so I think when you're crafting your brand, you want to be honest about your results. Now, your results can be a number of different things. It can be, what are the results you get your clients? What are you really good at? What results have you gotten in your own life? What do you do better than anybody else? What's your superpower? What challenges have you overcome? Those things we want to be honest about. Now, more often than not, I see people underestimating what they've done when they build their brand. They just forget that they've created, a 7-figure business, or that they've overcome this major health issue, or that it's amazing the things I hear from clients. They're like, oh yeah, I actually did that. So usually people, I think, underestimate what they've done. But that's one half of the equation. And then the second half is your reach. It's how many people know about it. And so when I think about your question of imposter syndrome, it's like, we want to accurately represent who we are and what we've done in our best light. And I find even then, so it's funny, Marlana, I think when we do an exercise with clients where we help them write their bio. And when we go through that exercise, I can't tell you how many times people start crying. And it's because they suddenly see themselves in a different light, which is how everyone else sees them. And they don't realize how incredible what they've already done is. And it's always such a touching moment to me because I think they look at that and they're like, that's not me. And it is them. And so I think it's a very cool process to see people see themselves in a different light. Kind of like with your photos, like where people look at them and they see themselves and they're like, is that me? And so there could be a bit of imposter syndrome and, wow, is that really me? But it is. It is. And I think it's just a process. It's a matter of owning it. And it usually doesn't take people long to be like, yep, that's me. And I'm owning it, and to feel really good about it. And that's fun, and you should.
So tell us now a little bit before we wrap up, where you are now from where you were 15 months ago.
I am a totally different woman. I'm a totally different woman. It's been one of the hardest years of my life. And it's also been, I think, one of the most just absolutely transformative years of my life. I'll say reinventing years of my life. We'll go with that word. But yeah, I mean, I've gone from having everything kind of taken away, income, connections, clients, reputation, like all of it, to creating a life that I can't believe is mine. And I say that in a number of ways. I mean, one of it is, you know, our business is very successful. So that's been exciting. You know, I'm making more than I've ever made, and that's fun. We've been able, my husband and I, you know, we bought our dream house, we got a dream car recently. So fun stuff like that. But I've also been very intentional about what do I want my life to be about at this point? And some of the things that were really missing previously were deep friendships and connections, specifically with other women. My spiritual connection, it wasn't nearly as strong. And also just like my love for myself.
Mm.
You know, I used to really struggle with that. And I really like myself now. Like I own it. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. And I know that I'll be honest, it feels so weird to say that out loud. It feels so uncomfortable to say, like, there's a piece of me that's like, oh my God, I just said that. But I think the more we can all own how incredible we are by the very nature of being here on this earth, it's like life is fun and work can be fun and it's joyful. And you just really like, when you can get in tune with who you are and bring more of that into your business and your brand and your daily life, it's a blast. So I've been doing that a lot, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I know for me along the way, it was a lot of peeling back and ripping things out at the root to get to that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. This is probably another podcast episode for another time, but a lot of my life had been spent building up these layers. I love how you said peeling things away and ripping it out at the root. That's exactly it. Like building up layers of who I thought I needed to be for various other people to like me. And I think that's really what life is about. I think we have a process of building up who we think we need to be. And then at a certain point, we're like, well, that's not working. And you become brave enough to start unpeeling some of the layers. And the more you unpeel, the more fun it is and the more cool things start to unfold in your life.
So with that in mind, if you had a chance to go back and talk to the woman that began this journey, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to trust herself. I would say, you know the right answers, regardless of what other people are telling you. Your path is your path, it's nobody else's, and trust your instincts, trust yourself.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Elyse. And if anybody wants to follow your journey or find out more about it, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. So I would direct people to two different places. One is just website and social media. It's all Elyse Archer. So ElyseArcher.com. And then on any social media, you can find me at Elyse Archer. And then we also have a kind of a fun free course that we've created for clients if they're curious about how do they take the first steps in building their personal brand. They can get that at ea.brandbuildersgroup.com.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marlana.
Thank you for joining us today. For other podcast episodes or an interest in working with me, please visit marlanasemenza.com. Join the mailing list or reach out to me to schedule a complimentary call. As a personal brand photographer, I have had the privilege of working with some amazing people to tell their stories, and I'd love to hear yours.